Hello, everybody. Can you hear and see us okay? Drop on the chat if you can see us and hear us. Hello. Hello. Okay. I believe we're live. Someone please ping me if they can't hear or see us properly. So I'll just jump into it. I'm Jordan. I am the Senior Integrated Marketing Manager at Skill Crush, and I will be the host of today's alumni webinar with the incredible, the illustrious Nicole Young, who is a Skill Crush alum, software engineer, and brand technical influencer at Storecom. And she will be sharing all of her insight gained throughout her transition into tech. And if you recognize her from YouTube, it's because she has a very popular Break Into Tech series, which has over 55,000 subscribers across Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And she's constantly sharing about what's going on. And she has so graciously decided to share some of her insights today. So for those who are new to Skill Crush or who might be joining one of our webinars for the first time, a quick rundown on Skill Crush is that we are a women-owned independent coding and design school founded in 2012 that focuses on providing self-paced career immersion training for jobs in tech. And we are on a mission to support career changers, particularly those marginalized by gender, race, or age, with the tech skills needed to land higher earning and more fulfilling careers in tech. And it is our most core belief that tech is for everyone, meaning you, whoever you are in the crowd, regardless of your background. So with that being said, a little bit of housekeeping and we'll jump right into it. It seems like most of you guys know how to use the chat. In the bottom right where it says say something nice, you can use the chat to drop some emojis, just say hello. If you hear something that sparks a reaction, please share. And then also at the bottom of the page is an ask a question tool, which you can use, and I'll be tracking that to ask Nicole whatever questions that you might have. And as a starting point, I thought we would start with a little bit of an icebreaker. And I would love if everybody could just drop in the chat where they're dialing in from. And I'll start. I'm in Brooklyn, New York, and I've been here for quite a while. Nicole, where are you calling in from?
I am in Pittsburgh. I was going to say the sunny Pittsburgh, but it's not sunny here. So
that's a big tech city, yeah.
It has a really growing hub for sure, and I think we're really big right now on artificial intelligence. There's a lot of startup artificial intelligence action going on coming out of Carnegie Mellon, so it's exciting.
Yeah, I've seen Black Mirror. I've seen like the little dogs that run around. So pretty soon, y'all gonna have them run around.
For sure.
I see we have people from Greece, the UK, Netherlands, Canada, Boston, California, Australia, Maryland. Okay, well, that is like, we have people from all over the world. So I'm super excited about this. I know you guys will love Nicole, who is incredible. And Nicole, I will give you the honors of introducing yourself to those who are watching.
Yeah, hey everyone. So my name is Nicole, as you guys already know, but I am a skill crusher. I'm a multi-hyphenated person that is always keeping busy. So kind of how I got my start was I am based in Pittsburgh, like I said, and I was, sorry if you guys can hear my dog in the background, but I was just coming off of some time off teaching English in Malaysia. So if anybody here is from the Southeast Asia area, what's up? But I was teaching English there. I was a psychology major in college, and I really was struggling with the decision of what I wanted to do after college, because most of the time that process is, getting your PhD and doing that kind of stuff. And I was really struggling because I really liked being more hands-on and having more direct impact, which was something I was able to do while I was living in Malaysia. And so I went on this journey of trying to figure out what was right for me. And so I dabbled in a few things, but I landed in a startup here in Pittsburgh that was using an artificial intelligence model to do road maintenance management and showing people where potholes are in the road and that kind of thing. So I joined with absolutely no experience in tech, and was trained to just try to teach the model, and feeding it a ton of data that would help it to get better at recognizing road conditions. And I remember I used Python snippets to run the programs that we were using, and I just was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I'm actually using code, and it wasn't as intimidating as I always imagined it being. Like, I grew up in, early 2000s, 90s, all that, and like the way that tech and all of that was portrayed to me, and especially because I didn't have any tech influences in my life, I just thought it was not for me because I'm not tech savvy and it just looks super overwhelming. So I never even imagined it for me, but having that opportunity to kind of get hands on with it just like exploded my world. And I decided that I wanted to learn how to code, and I wanted to kind of get into an actual technical role. And so I just started to try to find ways to learn. And I was recommended to Skill Crush by someone that I had met in a networking event. And the rest is history, honestly. Skill Crush gave me the foundation that I needed to learn in a way that wasn't intimidating and like coming from like a no judgment kind of place of like, I'm just getting started and I can really learn, everything that I need to learn. So yeah, that's my background.
I love it. And I told you this yesterday when we talked, but I
Yeah.
think that what's so interesting about your story is that you literally talk so much about not having like a tech background, like influence
Yeah.
until you got older, until after you already got your bachelor's.
Mm-hmm.
So that's super impressive. When you were looking at Skill Crush, did you always know that you wanted to go into front end development, or how did you decide between like development versus design? So I know a lot of students come here kind of trying to decide their path.
Yeah. So I definitely, because I had a little bit of experience with the code here and there, I wanted to try that out. But I ended up like, once I kind of went through a lot of the front end development stuff, I actually went back and did a little bit of the design stuff too, just to freshen up on that. So I think it's great that you have the option to kind of go back and do both. Sorry, my dog. But yeah, I would say I guess it really is what feels right, top of mind. I say don't spend too much time on that question, because like once you get started and you kind of start taking in the material, you'll know, as you go, whether it feels right or not. And you can always pivot, which is the awesome thing about tech. Like, you can pivot multiple times to kind of get to where you will eventually end up, and things are so fast paced that you'll never miss a beat.
And I will return back to this question, but I'm seeing a lot of love for your dog. So, what is your dog's name? Because I feel like this is like our special guest for the webinar that everyone wants to know about.
Yeah, she is a rescue pit bull. Her name is Robin.
Robin.
And yeah, she loves to crash all of my meetings and different things. So
I love it. I love it. That's all the fun and remote work. And going back to what you're talking about before the detour is, yes. And I think like one of the fascinating parts is like just getting started, because at least with Skill Crush, like the beautiful thing is that like once you start a career track, you can still switch over to the other one. So there's two career tracks for those who don't know, in front end development and UI UX design. And you can start in the UI UX design and then switch over to front end development at any time and not lose your progress and still learn those skills. So it's really fascinating. I know that when did you take Skill Crush again? Can you remind me?
It was it was late 2019, early 2020.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. So much has changed there. That was actually before our job guarantee and get hired. So sorry you missed out, but it seems like you still took the skills and flourished, which is
Yeah.
always good news. So, I guess, what was the experience like? Did it meet your expectations, or was it different at Skill Crush?
Yeah, it was beyond what I could have imagined. Like I said, I still had the kind of thought of like, oh, this is going to be hard and intimidating. And like the way all of the lessons are broken down, everything was so manageable. And I never really felt like I couldn't do it. Like I felt like going through the lessons, they give you everything you need to know, a little bit of history, a little bit of understanding of like what's going on, and then exactly step by step how to do, whatever the lesson is on. And then I also really, really loved that every step of the way you have different projects and assignments to complete as well, which I am a big believer of. I think when you are learning technical skills, that projects are really how you start to learn and understand from a real world perspective of like how these different, HTML and CSS and all these things are coming together. So I absolutely loved it. And I loved the projects, and um, it was what I'll say is I am so glad that I started with Skill Crush and not something else, because it really took away all of the like imposter syndrome and fear of like, is this right for me or not? Because it really made me feel confident that I was able to work through everything.
Did you ever feel, because you said it was hard, like starting out, and like I know in any type of career change, in any industry, you're going to feel imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like, I'm learning to be a dog trainer right now, like as a hobby, and like I feel it every time I try and do. So, like, when you first were like applying and like choosing this path, like how did you get over imposter syndrome at any step?
Yeah, I feel like imposter syndrome, it comes and goes. And I think especially being someone from an underrepresented group, like, or multiple underrepresented groups, like there is always a little bit of that feeling of like, do I belong here? And is what I'm contributing, adding value here. And so I go through every step of the way. I kind of have that little bit of transition period where I have to get over that. But I think, just remembering, one thing that really brings me peace is remembering that no matter where I'm at and what challenges I meet, like I will be capable of figuring it out. And that was like one of the biggest just life lessons that I've taken from my journey into tech, is that, we live in a great time and place in the world where information is right at our fingertips, and there's nothing that I can't learn at some point in time. And so, sometimes when I am faced with challenging moments or, situations, it's like, okay, taking a step back, I will be able to figure this out, and it's great to have resources to go back to, like even having my skill crush lessons to refer to in certain things when I'm a little rusty on certain things. Like it's great to have an abundance of resources. So yeah.
Yeah, you brought up something that really resonated with me, which is like imposter syndrome and just being Black in America. Like, oftentimes being in spaces where we're not necessarily reflected, and this isn't just for Black people, but for any marginalized identity. Like, oftentimes we'll feel like the only one in the room. That's even a coined term. So before working in tech, like, what were some of the stories that you or impressions that you had about being Black in tech, and did that necessarily like meet your expectations? Do you feel like there's progress in that direction in EDI and just being a Black person in tech? Like, what are your thoughts now that you're actually in the field?
The funny thing is, seriously, that I never I didn't see a lot of representation of Black people in tech. And so it was so it was so beyond what I was, concerned about or thinking about. Like I didn't even have this impression of like, oh, this is what it looks like to be Black in tech. I didn't see it a lot. And when I first started making content, it was partially out of like, I don't see any of us here. So like, I want other people to know that look like me and have similar experience, that like it's accessible. Like there are opportunities and there are ways for you to break into this industry, and there's so much value that can be taken out of that. And I didn't have someone at that time really to like show me that. And it wasn't until I started to network and find more people that I was able to see, oh, like this experience that I'm having, especially like feeling isolated as someone that's the only one in the room and all of that, like it's not me. Like it's not something that's wrong with me and me not belonging here. It's actually a bigger issue that this entire industry needs to work through, and that other people of color, Black women, and all of us are like dealing with. So it's comforting to know that you're not the only one. And so it was kind of like I was really excited and interested in what I was learning. And so I was like, I'm just going to pursue this. But I really had no context for what it was going to be like until I got in. And then I was like, oh, this is real different. So I had to figure it out. But like I saw someone in the chat mentioning community, and like it is huge. It's good to have that community, and that's definitely a big motivator in why I got on social media.
Yeah, community is so big. Like I
Mm-hmm.
know at Skill Crush, like it's one of our like priorities is to like
Mm-hmm.
build a community that is like safe and accepting, and like you know,
Yeah.
uh, a place where you can just like learn and celebrate one another. So for you, like where have you found communities like beyond building your own? Like were you
Mm-hmm.
able to find any, or any places that you have found like resources that you found super helpful for like finding other people in tech?
Yeah, so I definitely, when I was going through Skill Crush, I loved that we had different coaches and people to check in on us. And that was so encouraging, because when I remember there was one project that was a little overwhelming, and I was like, I'm going to take a step back from this and take a break. And I had someone checking in on me like, hey, I saw that you didn't finish this. Like, how's it going? And that's so nice to have. And so I'm really glad that, and this is like why I'm so Team Skill Crush, is because the support that you get is like worth every amount that you invest in this. And but otherwise, it really took me kind of coming out of my introvert, like I like my personal space zone, and really going out there. I'm in Pittsburgh, so just trying to find events and different things, and people who are involved in organizations and companies within the tech industry here, so that I could really find some more people to connect with and build community with. And now I am so grateful that I did that early on, because I do have a nice core group of people that I can lean on and have support from. So
Yeah, and I love what Kat said, that the mentors are like
yeah,
spiritual guides into tech.
yeah, for sure. Like so great. The community here is amazing.
Yeah, and for those who might be joining, like yes, like when you join Skill Crush, like you have unlimited email and Slack support with lifetime access. So like even though you joined in 2019, like we are still, you see how much like I'm talking to you now, we talk to you in the future. You always have the Slack and the space to join. So I want to take it back before we took the hard left, because I know we just started talking directly into where you're at now, but I know that there are a bunch of like people either considering applying or in the process of going through the program. So like you were talking about the importance of like the projects that you worked on at Skill Crush, and like I know like that these projects are used on the portfolios, but like how did those help you coming from a non-tech background? Like after you built those projects, what happened to them? Did you put them on a
Yeah.
website? What happened?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I'm a very visual person. So it's one thing having lectures and having little, code snippets or like test questions and that kind of stuff. That's one thing. But being able to see like, oh, this is how HTML and CSS and JavaScript come together to actually create something that is tangible. Like it was so great to be able to see that. And I feel like, especially in certain technical roles, it's impossible not to go through that type of learning process. You have to complete projects and things like that. For me, what was really great is because I finished my program around the time the pandemic was kind of launching, and I used those projects that I had completed in the program to kind of uh, like a portfolio for freelancing, because that was the only way I was going to be able to get experience during that time. And so I reached out to local businesses and some small entrepreneurs that were, that needed certain, website redesign and that kind of thing. And I just put myself out there, and that was what I used to, as my proof of like, I can do this. And so it was great being able to leave with something like that, because it helped me to gain experience, even in a situation like, even kind of like now the economy's not the best and you have to get experience somehow, and there are still people who need that type of work. And so it's nice to be able to have a portfolio right out the gate.
So you started after you finished Skill Crush, from my understanding, you started freelancing as a front end developer.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And how long did you freelance as a front end developer? For like a year?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like? Like, how did you even land your first client?
Yeah. So networking is like such a big deal for me, because as much as I am an introvert and I don't love it and it's very intimidating to me sometimes, it was networking that helped me to gain my first clients. So I was like reaching out to old connections that I had made in the co-working building that I was working in, and like different things like that. I knew some small business owners, and I was just like, hey, like if you ever need any help in this type of general area of front-end development, design, a little bit, please reach out to me, because I would be happy to help. And I just kind of learned as I went. So it was really great also to get that real world experience, because, going beyond what I was learning in Skill Crush, I was able to kind of take on like understanding what other people, what people will need when I'm actually in the field. So it was super helpful.
And when you were freelancing, like what type of projects were you working on?
So most of what I was working on were small business websites. And I wish I could find some of the old ones that I worked on. But I worked with a lot of nonprofits and small business owners here. So just like redesign. So, adding extra CSS to already created like websites to spruce it up a little bit, freshen things up. And I'm trying to think what else, other projects that I did, but most of them were redesigns of websites that were just really outdated and needed freshened up, needed better navigation and things like that. So.
And Rita asked in the chat, I should have asked you this before I even jumped into it, but what is a front end developer for those who might be interested?
Yeah. So, I kind of visualize it as like there are multiple things that create a website, or like what you're looking at on the web. Front end developers mainly focus on the part that you can actually see, not the stuff that's working in the background as much, but the structure that you are visually being able to see. So organizing the content in a way that is visually appealing. So.
And so at what point did you transition from being interested into just front end development to being interested into becoming a software engineer? Because I know that there's a jump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was freelancing for about a year, and sometime in that point in time, I started to hear a lot of people, like this was early pandemic, like I said. So people were asking for like extra things like, oh, I need my own, application. I need all this stuff. And so I was sometimes getting inquiries like, oh, have you ever thought about like, do you build apps and do you do things like that? And I, at that time, wasn't doing that, but I was like, you know what, that sounds interesting. And so I was still on this kick of like, I'm still learning and really excited about all, acquiring as much knowledge as I could. So I was like, I did some research on it for a while, and then I decided when the opportunity was right to just go for it and start learning like full stack software engineering. So I'm glad I did it. I don't have a position right now where I'm like fully in full stack, but I'm glad that I did learn to gain that technical knowledge about, how everything comes together.
And yesterday I remember you mentioned that you said you freelanced as a software engineer for about 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So what is a software engineer, and what is the difference between that and front end developer?
Yeah. So backend development it's more of the code that runs sort of like, I think people are kind of familiar with like an algorithm, like what those things are. And like, it's code that kind of, it sets parameters to, I guess, trigger actions on the website. So like if someone clicks a button, you want that button to be able to perform an action, which is usually taking someone to another place on the website. The back end is what handles that usually. So we do have like that happens in front end sometimes too, but as a smaller example, that's what the back end usually does. It's more of decision making. I'm trying to figure out like a really easy way to explain what back end is. It's kind of hard, but it's taking care of like actions to make sure that the website is actually running correctly.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the good thing about knowing both the front end and the back end is that you could just be like, I got you, whatever you need. With
Yeah.
app, like I could do the front end, I can do the back end, I can make the gizmos, do whatever you need me to do. So
For sure.
that's incredible. And so, after you gained this, like learned something about software engineering, then what happened after you like freelanced and as a software engineer?
Yeah. So after my like learning full stack engineering, I started to freelance, and I was also like in this waiting period almost where I was like, okay, if the right job comes along, I'm going to take it. But I was also not in a rush, I guess, to get into a full-time position. And the main reason for that is because the first job that I had was at a startup, and the environment wasn't the best, like the work-life balance type of thing. I was being asked to work more hours than I was being paid for, that kind of stuff. So I wanted to make sure that now that I have like this full skill set, I want to make sure that if I am going to take on, because like freelancing was working for me in that time, and I had a lot more a lot of freedom to kind of be flexible and live the way I wanted to. And we were still kind of figuring out stuff in the pandemic and all of that. So it's like it's nice to be able to work from home and that kind of stuff. And so I had a very specific list of things that I wanted out of a job. And so I was like kind of waiting for that to come around. So I updated my LinkedIn profile and my resume and all of that stuff to be really good. And I'm glad that the Skill Crush has like created so much more material for that process, because it is pretty involved when you're just getting started and making that switch. But I did that, and I was very fortunate because the updates that I made were basically attracted some recruiters, and they reached out to me. And the position that I'm currently in is a one that I was recruited for through LinkedIn. So very helpful.
And what's the new title?
My new title is Brand Technical Influencer. And so just to give you some a concept of what that is, I sit at the intersection of the tech team and the marketing team. Essentially, I take concepts that are very technical and technical concepts. So the company I work for is an IoT company, the Internet of Things. So a lot of connected devices, little things. And I am able to take the really dense technical content and make it into creative content that makes those concepts a little more accessible to a broader audience. So I make videos. A lot of the things that I'm doing now, like on my YouTube channel and stuff, I make videos and social media content that has a technical foundation, but making it a little more interesting to everyday people so that they understand the importance of that technology and a little bit more of how things are working in the background.
I love the comment that Muhammad said that says, "Wow, what a title!" Because Muhammad, that's literally what I said when I was talking yesterday to Nicole, which was I was like, I've never met any brand technical influencers, so
It's very new.
it's really an incredible job. And what's so interesting about your story is that it really kind of proves that like you can take tech skills almost like anywhere, and it doesn't have to be just a tech.
Yeah.
A tech company to incorporate a tech job, which is
For sure.
fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so as somebody who has like held, been a front end developer, a freelancer, a software engineer, brand technical influencer, like we always talk about transferable skills. And I really find it fascinating because you come from, a non-tech background with exercise and sports psychology. So like which transferable skills have helped you the most throughout your transition into tech?
Yeah, I would say never underestimate your soft skills. I think now more than ever, those are ones that are so desperately needed in the tech industry and in general, just trying to combine all of the different industries that we have with technology, because everything has some type of technology embedded into it now. And so never underestimate the ability to communicate effectively, to work well with, varying different types of people from different backgrounds and different fields. So that is one thing that really helped me, is like my communication skills were really a big part of what helped me to get into the type of positions I'm in now. I would also say, what other things? I think that, as I was saying before, tech is everywhere now, and I always try to encourage people to explore what it might look like for them to kind of take the field that they're currently in, and what does it look like to just embed a little bit of more technical skills on top of that. You don't have to completely throw those old skills away. A lot of them might become applicable, and there are so many crazy random positions out there like mine. Like, who would have known like those two things could come together, like the creative stuff and the technical stuff. You don't see it very often, but it's becoming more of a common thing to see two sort of fields kind of combine in a hybrid way. So don't throw away those old skills. They will definitely come in handy in some aspect. And if there is any, interest that you still have in any of those aspects of what you were doing, it might bring some fresh light into it to combine a little bit of the technical skills on top of it. So
Yeah, and so as a person who has freelance, been full time, has built their own platform, Joe B asked in the questions box, like, are there any certifications that you feel like you need to break into tech?
not necessarily certifications. I feel like one thing I've learned and that I really appreciate about the tech industry is that for the most part, you can learn. And then if you're able to just demonstrate that you've learned something, come on, join the team. Like, let's get to it. Let's get to work. And so I think it's more so, if you learn something, being able to demonstrate that you've learned it. I don't think it matters anymore as much, where you learned it from. I know that I'm starting to see a rapid transition away from requiring certain types of learning. Oh, you have to have a bachelor's in this, or you have to have a certification in this, like, because you're honestly, to the company's loss, you're missing out if you are kind of putting that hard line on those types of things. So
Yeah, and I've been working with in tech for a minute now, and I think that because coding boot camps are like still like they just got past their infancy, they're still like a little older than 10 years, like the idea of them. But I think that some people are concerned with the idea that maybe there might be a stigma for not having like a formal 4-year degree. And
Mhm.
so, like, as you've navigated these different spaces and have held these conversations, have you ever like encountered any type of like pushback or questioning about coming from like a boot camp or self-learning, or does it kind of just feel like if you got the skills, you got the skills, and we want you?
So I haven't personally been in any type of situation where I've seen any type of like pushback or discrimination in a sense of like that type of learning style. I actually, most of the spaces I've been in, it's kind of like praised almost that you have a creative transition into certain fields, because I think people are starting to realize that diversity, and not just, you know, like physical diversity, those types of things, but the diversity in background and learning and all of that add just as much value to what we're doing. So I really appreciate that. And I'm grateful that I've been in spaces that kind of celebrate that instead of push back against it. So I think we're on the right track for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
I agree. I think that it's such a fascinating era because like tech skills have never been so accessible, and it's
Mhm.
such a um, competitive and booming landscape. And so I guess my next question is at what point, I guess I never really asked you throughout this conversation, at what point were you inspired to like actually create the Break into Tech blog? Like was it like when you first started Skill Crush? Was it like during freelancing? When did that arise?
It was around the same exact time. Like it was, I left my job at the end of 2019. It was like the third quarter or so of the year, and I quit my job and I was like, I don't care what it is, I'm gonna find a way to get into tech. And I had already been referred to Skill Crush, so I checked it out and just happened to catch a time where I was able to I used like a lot of the money from my last paycheck, and I was like, I'm gonna do this, and this is gonna be the best investment. And I was so
Yeah.
right about that. So I'm sorry, there's someone starting their car in the background.
Oh,
um, but I used that last paycheck. I paid for the Skill Crush Learning, the Break into Tech program, and it was around that time because of like the experiences that I had with just a really bad work environment, that I was like, I want to share this with other people. And I was fresh learning. So I was like, I want to share, like, as I learn, I want my audience to be able to learn. And so I was just like throwing it out there. I had a small following on Instagram already. So I was starting to share on there already. So when I started Skill Crush, was like, you know, just kind of sharing a little bit of like my learning process and my little learning routine every day. And when I started on YouTube, that's kind of that it was like an extension of what I was already doing on Instagram. So
and I think that like you've done an incredible job. Like you've been going. I've watched almost every single one before this one, and one that really stuck out to me was your brand is like centered around self-learning and like kind
mhm.
of like using the resources that are available for you. You even did this great video that was like everyday habits to break into tech without experience.
Mhm.
So for anybody who might be going through Skill Crush or who might be doing some self-paced learning, like do you have any tips for like navigating this program?
Yeah. I would say number one, take full advantage of all of the resources that you're given in this program, because it's not common to get this much rich amount of support along with the information that you're learning, the technical information. So take full advantage. Like, you have unlimited Slack support, you have unlimited email. Like, use it. Ask every question, even if it feels like a dumb question, because that is how you're going to like really get over those hurdles the quickest. I would say networking. I can attest that as awkward as it sometimes feels, like networking is so important. So starting to find a community that's in like around you, in proximity to you, is super important. Try to find meetups or events to attend to and just start building relationships with people in your area that can also provide insight. Utilize those career coaches that you would have in the program as well. And if you have opportunities to find mentorship in your area or online, like do it, because the amount of insight that you will gain from someone who's already gone through it is so valuable to you, compared to what you would have to go through if you're just trying to do it on your own. You really truly cannot be successful in an industry like tech without some type of community. I'm noticing too, like we're in a weird time right now in the tech industry where like we've seen a lot of layoffs and we've seen hiring freezes and things like that. But I will tell you that people are still getting hired every day. I see it in our company all the time. And I've seen it, from perspectives, from friends and things like that. And having a network is really valuable in times like these because I think referrals and things like that are great ways to be able to know what's happening, where to be hired and where to apply and things like that. That's super helpful. So those are my top two, is like take full advantage of the resources that you have available to you. And even the internet, like you can probably find a lot of stuff too, on, YouTube and different places like that. But also start putting yourself out there and networking, because that was definitely a major key for me, aside from learning that helped me to make that full transition.
Yeah. LinkedIn and like the online networking is like severely underrated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like 5, 6 years ago, I didn't have it and my friends had it and they're like, you are just living in a bubble right now. And I was like, really? So I tried it out and I was like, whoa, okay, I get it.
Yeah. It's major for sure.
Another video that really spoke to me was you have the one that's 5 reasons why you can and should break into tech in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And like the biggest reason you mentioned was because you have this belief similar to Skill Crush that tech is for everyone.
Yeah.
So could you define what you mean when you say like tech's for everyone?
I mean that I feel like I feel like I've touched on it a little bit throughout this conversation, but I truly have this belief that no matter what you are good at, what skills that you have, what I think some of us have innate gifts and talents that we just kind of are born with and don't even think anything of them. You can utilize that to bring value in the tech industry. And I think that tech is for everyone because tech affects everyone. We are all affected by technology, and we should all, have some type of involvement in technology. I really, truly believe that because I think representation is really important here in this industry, because there are a lot of things being created. We are all seeing like the rise of AI being used so much now too. Like if we all aren't being represented in that, there's a lot that's missing in that technology. And I think that, no matter what you are good at and what you're doing, you can bring value in this industry and what is being created from the industry and these companies. So I say just explore that and see, how you can take those technical skills and combine them with the things that you're really good at and what comes of it,
Yeah. I want to, you were mentioning something that made me want to ask you about diversity in tech, and I'm trying to get on my Dr. Phil stuff right now, try and dive deep into it. But I guess one theme I hear you talking about is like how important and how passionate you are about encouraging people of color, particularly women, particularly Black women, into getting into tech. So like, where does that inspiration come from? Is that just like rooted in like your beliefs, or like is that because you want to see like more representation in the company, or is that just
I guess for me it comes from like remembering how I felt when I was going through my the beginning parts of my journey and joining this industry and feeling really isolated. And also just, in my own ignorance, not realizing that I could be someone that is fulfilled in the tech industry. Because I didn't realize that, I want to shout it from the rooftops to everyone, because not all of us are privileged enough to have so much exposure to understand, what it looks like to have a career in tech, or how to get in there, what to learn even to be able to break into this industry. And I didn't have a lot of that background or influence around me. And when I started to become exposed to it and realize that it was something that was accessible for me, I wanted to make sure that everyone like me that might have a similar background or experience understood that too, because there's so much benefit to being a part of this industry. There's so much opportunity here. There's so much money here, even it is so much, there's just so much that could be gained from it. And I want to make sure that, everyone understands truly that it's possible, and that it's an option at the very least. So yeah, I guess that's where the motivation comes from. I never saw myself as someone that would be in this industry. And when I realized how accessible it was, I wanted to make sure everybody knew that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that would you have ever thought, looking back 3 years ago or 4, how long did you has it been?
I guess it's been
4 years?
4 years. Yeah.
Would you have believed 4 years later that you would be a brand technical influencer, having been
That role didn't even exist 4 years ago. That's so crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's wild because when I imagined what I would be doing, it's so much better than that. And I was able to almost pave my own way into a role that fits me the best. And that's awesome. It's great. And that's the thing, tech enables that. There's so much opportunity, like I said.
Yeah. It's a highly customizable field.
Yeah.
Once you get in, I think that you really prove that you can take those skills and be a freelancer, part-time, full-time for yourself. And so that's incredible. And I guess looking back 4 years ago versus now, how big of an impact do you think your transition into tech made on you personally, financially, mentally, whatever you feel made the most impact, and where?
It made an impact in literally every aspect of my life. One of my tagline on YouTube is to break into tech and build the life of your dreams. And that is truly what I've been able to do. The financial impact has been great. The mental health impact has been great, because I'm in a role that allows me to work from literally anywhere. So I have a lot more flexibility and freedom in my life because of the skills that I've acquired. And also just the being able to build a community of people who are so smart and just talented and have a variety of different skill sets has been awesome. So literally I can't think of an aspect of my life that hasn't been impact in some type of positive way. So
I saw that YouTube video where you had tips on how to triple your salary, and I was like, hold on, let me change this webinar title real quick, and let me just figure out how I can triple my salary by next year this time. So incredible. I think that's incredible. And you often talk about how your number one reason for breaking into tech is the freedom and flexibility that it offers. So what did you hope for, and what did you achieve by regarding that transitioned?
Honestly, when I was first just thinking about, I want something that's a little more flexible, I was just going to be happy with I don't have to go in the office every day. And that kind of we were kind of forced out into that, the world that we're into, in now. But it goes so far beyond that, because when you are in a job, that's a solid chunk of your time that you're devoting your life to. And it is important that you're able to work with people that like are not terrible, you know? So like it's nice to be able to like I really love the team that I'm on. I love that the culture is a good fit for me, you know, like just the fact that I get to work with people who are super positive and who have an affinity for learning and are just, you know, we're all just working together to figure it out. So I love that. And that's so good on my mental health. Like I don't have to, I'm not stressed because I have to work with somebody that I don't like or, you know, that kind of thing. And I think what I did before I got into this job is I wrote down like everything that I wanted, you know, like, and a lot of it was just the opposite of what I didn't like in previous things. And it really helped me to have clarity on what to look for in the career I'm in now. So when the opportunity came up, I was like, okay, let me ask questions about this part of the culture. Let me ask questions about this. And I was able to figure out that like this is the right fit for me. So I definitely think having that and you know being able to work remotely, not just being able to work from home and in your own space, but I don't have a 9 to 5 structure. Like if I have to work at, you know, 10 to 12 and then take a break and then, you know, work a little later in the afternoon, like I have flexibility to do that. And it's like I'm getting my work done. And so it doesn't really matter when I'm getting it done, you know, as much. So that's super nice too, being able to travel a little bit more. Yeah.
It's a highly flexible career because most of the work you can do remote. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or all of it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever go into the office or?
I don't have an office. Like my
So
company
you remote.
Yeah, my company is global. I'm the only one within like 100 miles like in this area. So like the closest person I have is in New York City. So if I'm ever in that area, I can work with him. But we're literally spread out throughout, like I think there's like 10 time zones that we have that we're representing in this company.
So Nicole, you got a question from Nicole, who I apologize in advance to Nicole, who I believe I invited to the green room. Because that wasn't it was the wrong Nicole. So it's nice to still have you here. She asked, or they asked, what about tech interviews? Like, do you have any advice for the technical interview process and like what to kind of prep for? I know it looks kind of different per role.
Yeah. It can vary depending on what type of position you're going into. If you're in more of a technical position, honestly, it's just practice. Like I would say while you're in that phase of applying and interviewing, like you just have to stay on top of practicing different, you know, sometimes data structure and algorithms might come up. It might be more full stack. That might be where my brain's at with that. But being able to just really understanding the details of whatever field you're trying to get into. So, you know, what technologies, what is the most up-to-date version of those technologies and what kind of differentiates those things. And yeah, I would say you should be studying regularly while you're in that interview phase, studying the technical parts of what you're doing, but also like study up on that company. What are, you know, what field are they in, and what do they do? What are their customers looking for or whatever, because that helps you get an understanding of like what you might be doing in that role and what things are most important. So it's good to kind of have a holistic view of all those things.
And I'll do a quick plug that for the other Nicole, that's not you, the person that asked the question. The great thing about Get Hired is that like, once you finish breaking the skills portion, you get 4 additional classes where you talk all about mock interviews, how to take the technical test, and how to approach the resume, how to network online, and all of that. So I'm sorry that you had to kind of learn it in like Skill Crush 1.0, Nicole. Yeah. But I'm hoping that for the other Nicole, I don't know, my Nicole green emoji, I think was the one. Hopefully Get Hired will help guide you a little bit easier than what happened before.
So, yeah, no, honestly, I was looking at the fresh version because like even some of the coursework is updated from when I took it. And I love that you guys are just on top of that. And the job guarantee and the get hired section of this is so valuable. So like I said, take full advantage of that. Do those mock interviews, because interviewing is so awkward and it's not easy. It's just like like you're on the spot all the time and it's not easy, but getting that practice is so great. So having it built into this program is invaluable. So yeah.
Especially in a new industry, because there's like certain phrases and things like that
For
people
sure.
want to hear.
Mhm.
Don't you do hiring for one of your companies or
I did in the first job that I was in. I worked my way up into a management position, and so I was doing that. And yeah, it is there is definitely things that hiring managers and recruiters and interviewers are looking for to hear you say and all that. And so you're going to be prepared to be able to go into those interviews and drop those gems. And
Well, what's the secret, hiring manager? I should have just asked you the YouTube link. Or is that
I wish I knew, like, if it was, because that was one position that I was in. I wish I knew if it was like if it was like a universal thing. I'm not sure, but I definitely think something I looked for as a hiring manager is a willingness to learn, because like a lot of the times in tech jobs, you're gonna have to learn in the job once you get in there. You know, it's good to have a foundation of knowledge, but you're gonna have to learn once you get in there and be trained on their processes and their, different ways that they go about things. So having that willingness to learn and having kind of like even being proactive about like, oh, like I noticed that you guys use this and I might not know everything about it yet, but I was already like starting to study up on it. Like those types of little things are like are great, when you hear or see those things as a hiring manager.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like I'm not a hiring manager right now, but every single boot camp alum who I've spoken to, I see Erica in the chat, I see Tori, I see all these people. I'm like, just the pure fact that you're able to like self-learn and like be bold enough to go through a career change shows like such a deep level of ambition. And I'm like such in awe of like every person that comes through Skill Crush. And because it is you're on the other side, but I'm sure at one point you were probably like, I don't know, like text is real big, like I don't know what to do.
It's real, it's a lot, it is, but yeah, that willingness to learn, like you said, you couldn't have said it any better, Jordan, like just having that willingness to go through this in general is like you're already, like, let's speak about imposter syndrome, like you have already done more than a lot of people would do, like just deciding to learn something new and to make a career switch. So that's something to be spoken about already, like in your boldness, your capability, like, so don't underestimate that for sure.
And so I know that we have unfortunately 2 more minutes, and so I do want to make sure I ask this question as someone on the other side who has once been on the before Skill Crush, and now you're 4 years later. For anyone who's listening, considering making the career change or might be in the middle of it, like, what would you want to say to them, and or like, what would you want to say to yourself 4 years ago before you took the plunge?
Yeah, wow, that's such a good question. Honestly, just invest in yourself, invest that time, the money, whatever it is, like don't underestimate yourself, and know that investing in yourself is going to pay off, like dividends, like it's going to, like, I couldn't be more happy that I started my journey with Skill Crush, truly, because it helped me build confidence in myself, like aside from all of the things that we've talked about, the technical skills, and even now the get hired aspect of the tracks now too. It really helped me to build confidence and overcome a lot of the mental barriers as well. And having that support built in as well is amazing. So I would say just go for it. Like, invest in yourself. Like, it is going to be worth it, and you're going to look back who knows when and be like, I'm so glad that I did that when I did it. So because I know I do it every day. Like, I'm so glad that I did it.
And the I think you said this at the beginning, but literally, like, our career coaches, our instructors are gems of
So
people,
good.
and they're my favorite people in the world, next to you and everybody who is watching. And I do just want to say, I know we're out of time, but Anita, I know you're asking about whether the program is designed more for the U.S. job market or someone living in Europe. And what I'll say is that the tech skills are universal skills, and our career coaches work with anybody, anywhere. So you can follow up. I'll drop it in the chat with hello at Skill Crush to continue the conversation, because I do want to respect our brand technical influencer, software engineer, YouTube stars time. But let's continue the conversation there, because I would love to chat. And for you, Nicole, you are a inspiration. You are an icon, and I'm so thankful that you came to share your insight with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so glad I did it.
Of
For
course.
sure. Yeah, and for anyone who wants to contact me, have any questions about my experience or any of that, like, feel free to reach out. I'm pretty active on Instagram and YouTube. Like, DM me or send me an email, and I'd be happy to connect.
Yeah, and I will also include I'll include some of those links in the emails after this, just so everybody has it. So you don't have to look far. Appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for coming. And until next time, okay?
Thank
All right.
you.
Have a good one, y'all. Bye.